Okay, guys, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel and the Galilee. I'm broadcasting using the phone because we got a dead iPad. So I'm using one iPad for the Bible studies and my notes, and I'm using the phone to actually do the broadcast. So I have not yet been able to revive the broken iPad. I don't know if it's going to come back. It was giving me a lot of trouble. Like I'd press on the screen, I hit the letter A and I'd get three A's. And I think it's shot. I use it around the clock for, I guess, 3 years or so. Um, so it's kind of had it. So I'm still, seeking people that would like to, help me get another device, another iPad. Someone suggested I get one that's refurbished, and this is possible. I have to research it today and see about what the deal is with that. I think I know a place that does sell them. I'm not sure. I have to look into it. You can't ship anything from Amazon over to Israel in terms of a phone or an iPad or a computer. They don't do it. Even from iPad, even from Amazon Europe locations and other, they don't do it. So Amazon's off the table, and I don't know how it'll turn out, but in the meantime, we got this to work with. So today we're going to cover how America is going to attack Iran, and I'm going to give you some what I think you'll believe are interesting insights. And France yesterday came out with a notice to their citizens to get out of Iran now. So this is France's way of telling the Iranians that we have intel that the Americans are going to attack you. Okay? That's what that is. Without getting the ire or the anger of America elevated by coming right out and saying, "Oh, we got intel that there's going to be an attack on you." Trying to get the heater working. It's cold today, but no rain, and we're going to be warming up. It'll get a little warmer tomorrow, and then by Sunday, I think we're in the 70s. So, and Israel is sending a delegation to America next week to discuss the attack on Iran. So you better get ready. All right. And the Houthis have been attacking us multiple times a day now. 100% takedowns, so we're not getting any damage, but people are having to run to the bomb shelters, and scaring people. And this is about all the Houthis can do, but it is effective because it puts a lot of pressure on the Israeli people. They've been coordinating their attacks with Hamas. Hamas actually managed to launch 3 missiles out of Gaza yesterday. Nothing, no damage. So they're really defunct. But you gotta hit the red alert, and then people go in their bomb shelters. Many years ago, they made it mandatory to have bomb shelters in every house in Israel. So, see, I think we're the only country that has that. So I don't know what's going to go on in the other countries when the wars break out, but they're not going to be able to go run to their bomb shelter. What are they going to do? Regular houses don't hold up against even Katyusha rockets, which are junky, rockets with a warhead of 10, 12 pounds or less even. But real missiles and bombs and stuff, they just cut right through a house. The bomb shelters are usually low down under the house. They're rather thick, heavy, fortified concrete with lots of rebar, and they have a window that's about 1 inch thick, looks like cold rolled steel, the big heavy window you got to lock inside. You could open it so if the door gets blown up, you can crawl out. There's also a tool that rescue workers can use to open the window from the outside. But if you're worried about terrorists using that, um, there are things you could do, like put some kind of steel bolt in the wall that'll stop the handle from turning, stuff like that. You could probably chain it, into some not movable object inside the bomb shelter. And they have a heavy steel door where they have bolts in the door on all the four sides, even into the floor. So the door is rather secured. Um, Look, it's not going to take a 500-pound bomb on a direct hit. But if a 500-pound bomb goes off, 75 feet away or 50 feet away or something like that, and the shrapnel goes flying, the shrapnel's just going to basically make little dent holes, dent marks on the bomb shelter. But nobody else has that. So I don't know how they're going to deal with it. But okay. So we're going to cover that, and we're going to get into a pretty good deep dive into the Israeli government in turmoil, and it looks like it could rip apart. And I don't mean just get rid of Netanyahu. I mean the whole government, political collapse. It's getting serious, and a lot of people, analysts and so forth, are talking about Israel collapsing, and it's all Netanyahu's doing. Don't take it any other way. It's 99% on Netanyahu. He is a real piece of garbage. I can't say that enough. And people like him would not. Well, I'll get into it later in the discourse in the live stream. So let me get the live stream open on the iPad so I can make sure we got sound and picture. Of course, that's usually important, right? And we probably do. Open on the iPad so I can make sure we got sound. Well, we got plenty of sound. There's not a real problem with the picture, the image. Uh, there's not much I'm going to put up that's that important. So, all right, I'm going to put my posts up in the live stream. And that'll take a very brief period of time. I got the the iPad I was broadcasting on all pretty well tuned up, working good for me to replace the other one. I had to, get the apps running and different things that I hadn't been doing. When I originally had this iPad, I used it just for broadcasts, so I never really set it up, but I got it set up. And the iPads shared data, so I got 99.8% of the data or 0.5 or whatever off the other iPad in here, so I didn't have any data loss at all, really. Nothing that I'm worried about or anything. Let me get my email address up. All right, I think everything is good. Let me check for typos. No, I think everything's fine. Help with me needing, pay towards me getting a replacement iPad. Um, you gotta either use PayPal, or if you're gonna send a substantial amount of money, you can contact me, and there's another way to do it, bank transfer. But you don't use GoFundMe, because it's very, very hard to take the money from GoFund and get it into Israel, the bank, and use it. So it's difficult. All right. So I actually need the funds. I got to get the funds first, then I'll go buy it. Otherwise, we'll manage with what we got. What can I say? As you know, I'm what they call, shadow banned here. Um, and I don't get much exposure. They don't like what I say. The way the shadow banning works is they have, words they pick up that they don't like, I suppose. And then they also have Satan bots that report, stuff, you know. So I don't know how many Satan bots watch uh, the live streams and the videos I make, but I imagine it's dozens at least, you know. Um, People play games with me all the time. They talk about offerings they gave me, and I never saw a single offering from this person. They act like they know me for years. I don't know them from a hole in the wall. They they try to snare me, feed me false information. People have given me offering money and then try to dictate to me what my doctrines need to be. And if I don't comply, they cut the money off, which the way that ends 100% of the time is they cut the money off. You know, I even years ago had some church, or I don't know if they were church, they were holding themselves out to be believers, and they were same-sex couple, and they were giving, and they didn't like my position on the same-sex couples, so that stopped. Uh, you know, it happens. Um, there's not much you can do with it. It goes with the territory. So I'm really here for you faithful, followers. That's what I'm doing. If I wanted to use the internet to generate an income, I would never do it this way, and I would never broadcast like a church figure. If I went and played the game of scaring people so they would buy survival equipment and prepper equipment and use my sponsors or people that I'm promoting that give me a kickback and give them a discount, so they get a 10% discount and then I make 5 or 10%, that kind of thing. And I would probably be like them. I would probably be making $50,000, $100,000 a month, but I would never do that. That's making merchandise out of God's people. Now, you could do that without ever mentioning God, but that would be wrong. But, I could do things like, for instance, um, sell investments in Israel startup companies to people. And they pay you, I think, 5%. Um, there's a lot of things I could do. So you find somebody that invests $100,000, you make $5,000. You know, so I could do stuff like that, or I could promote products or be an influencer. I've been on the internet since the 1990s, the mid 90s. The websites were in black and white. I remember that. I had one about the Bible in black and white. That's how they were, you know. And I went through all of this. So um, that's basically what's. So I mean, I live rather sparsely. We have a reasonably nice house, but it's rented. We have a car that's at least 10 years old, but it's a nice car, a real good car. But, I don't live um, lavishly, you know. Um, Now that my wife's traveling, I'm having some food deliveries, and I prepare my own food and I have food delivered. I don't, I will start cooking, but I haven't really gotten into it yet, but I will, you know. But what do I order? I had a guy send me some Philly cheesesteaks, you know. Um, I eat half. They're big. I eat a half for a meal. Then I get some Chinese food and stuff like that, which isn't that bad because you get vegetables and you get meat and you get, it's not that bad, and their food's pretty good. And then I eat, I bought a lot of canned vegetables, and we have my wife cans. We got that stuff, and you know, I might get some type of cereal. I don't know. They have healthy cereal. It does exist. It's not great for you, but it's not the garbage. I may buy some of that. Like they say, grape nut flakes is good, and there's some old brand of Wheaties where their wheat biscuits about that big. Yeah, I'll just fool around with it. I'll manage. And we got our fruit trees are going to probably start dropping fruit in the next couple of weeks, so I'll have that. And there's not much in terms of delivery food that's really any good. There's a really good pizza guy, but pizza's not really good food. I mean, if you take bread and you put cheese on it and you throw ketchup on it, you got pizza, right? I mean, basically. Um, let's hope nobody calls on the phone. I didn't want to turn it off. I think if I shut it into airplane mode, it might have killed the internet, so I didn't want to mess with it right now. But I'll look into that. All right, so uh, let me do some praise and we'll get into it. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. Please, let's do the prayer requests here. First one is for NH, Normandy Hotel. NH, Normandy Hotel. NH, healing from tumors. No, tremors, not tumors, tremors. I guess that means they're shaking. And the next one is for CM Charlie Mike, CM Charlie Mike, healing for the knees. Healing for the knees for CM. And also, CM needs another job. So pray for CM, healing in the knees, and to get another job. Please pray for me. I still recovering from that carnivore diet with my intestinal tract, let's say, and I got some hemorrhoids from it, and I reduced it a lot, but it's still there, and it causes some, you know, less frequent bowel movements. I don't want to be graphic, so please pray that my intestinal tract heals up quicker and better. Okay, I appreciate that. And all right, so France told their citizens to leave Iran. I heard one guy say other countries too, but I researched it. I did not find any other country that said this at this point in time. Okay. So the guy, I don't know where he got it from, but I couldn't find it on Google. So I didn't see it in YouTube, and I don't see it in Telegram. So I'm not so sure it's real. But the French thing is real. France did tell their people to leave Iran. And I believe the purpose of that was to um, announce to, well, number one, get the people out of Iran, and then number two, to announce to Iran that they know that an attack is coming. Of course, I think America would tell the people that they're close with in Europe about this. Um, Heathrow Airport. Now, that's a really big airport in the UK, Heathrow. Huge. It got international flights coming in from all over the place, okay? They had a big fire, and it resulted in a power outage, or maybe they shut the power off because of the fire, I don't know. And they closed the airport. And this is a big deal. And can we assume that this was some type of a terrorist attack? Well, I mean, I don't know that it was a terrorist attack, okay? Do I think it's likely a terrorist attack? Yes. Remember what, 2 days ago, the Norfolk Navy base, America's biggest Navy base, went dark. Their power went out. They lost their power. That's big. Was that a terrorist attack, or they just happened to lose their power all of a sudden? Well, I think it was likely a terrorist attack, but I have no proof or anything on that. But let me just say, I'm very suspicious that it was a terrorist attack, okay? All right. America told Israel to use restraint and not strike the Houthis in Yemen. America was going to take care of it for us. Now, on the surface, what's my first thought? It's real. What's my second thought? Is America has a plan that the Pentagon worked out for how they want to dismantle the Houthis in Yemen, and they don't want Israel getting in there and doing it a different way. Do I think Netanyahu will abide by this? As long as we can keep taking down their drones and missiles without any hits in Israel, yeah. If we get one hit in Israel, he's going to tell Trump he has to retaliate, and Trump will let him, I think. Trump will help him. Trump might even do it with him as a joint attack. I don't know. The UK also may not want Israel involved because they're not so pro-Israel, and they're assisting America in these attacks. Okay. Last night they launched, late evening maybe, or something like that. Early night or late evening. I can't remember the time. It was yesterday. They launched seven drones at Israel from Yemen, which is Edom in the Bible. And the drones had a 7-hour flight time, but none of them ever arrived in Israel. American jets, American warships, Israeli jets, I don't know, somebody took them down. Or they just were so, they couldn't make it here. It was too much of a trip, I don't know. But they never showed up in Israel, I don't believe. Or they were taken down outside of Israel, and if it's a pretty substantial distance outside of Israel, then the red alerts aren't going to go off, you know. If they're going to do a takedown, 200 miles away from Israel, there's not going to be red alerts, This is an interesting development. It's definitely going to infuriate the Muslims that are terrorists. This is not going well for Netanyahu, that we're continuing to get attacks from Yemen. And they're doing multiple attacks a day, and they coordinated with Hamas from Gaza yesterday, where they launched 3 missiles, but I don't even know if we took them down. They might have fell in Gaza, but there was no damage. So far, 0 casualties from any missile hits. 13 people one day did hurt themselves, tripping and falling, running to the bomb shelters. The idea when you go to the bomb shelter is to walk briskly, but not to run. Make sure you don't fall. Because if you fall and you twist or sprain something or hurt it or break something, then how do you get to the bomb shelter? So that's the idea. I don't go to the bomb shelter. I have another faith, which is the Lord, and no evil shall come to your house, Okay. So the Houthis are also continuing to attack American warships. And America has hit over 60 targets in Yemen so far. Over 60. That's beaucoup, right? And they're still at it, okay? Now, there might be a day in the very near future, like before Monday, where you see, 50 or 80 targets get hit in one day in Yemen. That might happen because of what they're doing in Israel. So you might see a real escalation in the amount of strikes a day, but it's taking its toll. And what Yemen is doing against America is, in a very limited fashion, working for their goals, but I'll explain to you why I say that. They can't really damage the American warships. In the past, they did. But I think the Americans learned, and they modified either their radars, their equipment, their tactics, the missiles, changed missiles, whatever they did, it's not working anymore. But it does cause the American warships to go into alert, to be very cautious and nervous, and it's got a deterrent value. Okay, let's say on a 10 scale, hitting them with an anti-ship missile and blowing up the boat, causing it to burn and sink, is a 10. The value that they have is a 2. It means the Americans got to be cautious and observant and very careful about what they do, but that's it. The Houthis are saying that they will keep attacking. They won't stop even if the sky falls, which is an Arab way of saying the end of the earth. I don't think it has anything to do with Chicken Little saying the sky's falling. Yeah, poor chicken. Probably believed it. I'm just kidding. But it is, it's a death cult. These people are terrorists, lunatics, are psychotic, and they're in a death cult. But the leaders are not in the death cult. They just make believe they are. You have to understand that. The leaders of all the religions, the phony religions, are always Satan bots, Hindu, Buddhist, Islam, you know, Church of Satan, whatever. Well, the Church of Satan are outright Satanists, But the Catholics, So they, churchianity. So that's why the targeted assassinations have some effect, because these people, the leaders, are well aware of the fact they're not going to instantly get transported into paradise with the 70 virgins. They just sell that to the people. They don't buy their own garbage back when it comes to that. But Satan deceives them in other ways. So the Houthi said, as long as Israel keeps attacking Gaza, they're not going to stop their attacks. Now, the humanitarian aid is still not coming in. Israel is in the process, or they may have completed it, or they'll complete it probably by Monday, dividing Gaza into two pieces, a north and a south. And they're putting not just a little barrier or a fence, they're putting a buffer zone, making it very difficult to pass from the north to the south or vice versa. So in other words, they might have a zone of 300 meters. So you have fences on both sides, and then you've got a large swath of land you got to go through. And they'll have sensors and cameras watching it, maybe drones, I don't know, a number of things. Probably not drones, So the chances of them crossing is pretty dismal. It's not going to happen. And we're sending notices out to the people in Gaza. I think we drop them from the air, telling them they've got to get out of there. Their life will be in jeopardy if they don't. Okay? That's the reality of that. Okay? So they're, being told they got to get out of Dodge and relocate themselves to the south, where they will probably be safe, and they'll probably have humanitarian aid and water down there, I would expect, because it's not going to work its way up to the north where Hamas is. But Hamas has enough for probably another 5.5 months of bottled water and food to keep going. But, you could have a full belly and get hit by a bomb or a missile or an artillery shell or a bullet, and that's the end of that, right? So it's more than just food and water. I think what they're doing is they're finding odds and ends missiles that have been hidden and stashed around Gaza that are still intact. And they're scraping together small amounts of them, which is all they can muster up. Maybe they're rehabilitating them, like they got 5 broken missiles from explosions, and they take the parts that are good from each missile and put them in the missiles that are bad parts, and replace the parts, and then get them off fired. They're really making a pathetic show of themselves. Now, they did say they're ready to negotiate. They used some pretense. The next phase of the ceasefire is what I believe the words were. Well, Israel's not really looking for that. The first thing that comes to mind is they're trying to delay. We'll negotiate, but then they're going to turn around, mark you, and say, but we're not going to negotiate with the bayonet on our back. You've got to stop the attacks and we'll negotiate. Well, Netanyahu already declared that any negotiations going on with Gaza is going to be under fire. In other words, they're going to be getting attacked the whole time. So whether or not they're really going to ever negotiate on the, by telling Netanyahu, no, you got to stop attacking us, it's not going to go anywhere. We have issues in Iran. The president of Iran says if America's nice, and they seem to be nice now, we'll negotiate with them. And then the foreign minister gulps, and he says, well, the supreme leader, the Khomeini, said there are no negotiations with America. So they're getting some division there. A house divided unto itself shall not stand. They're getting some division. I don't think it's major, though. I don't think so. I think this president just doesn't want to see Iran take, 2,300 bombs. And I'm going to get into showing you how America will do it. And I've got 3 models for you. This is how I'm going to do that. I'm going to show you how Ukraine is attacking Russia. Okay. Now, Ukraine's attacking Russia with a lot of American money and a lot of American weapons. So you better believe America has input into what Ukraine does, right? That's logical. We would expect that. There's no rocket science there. It's a reality, right? Trying to get my heater closer. It's so cold in here. I had mommy out there. She just, before my wife left, she gave mommy a coat. Well, we had a groomer give her a close haircut, and she was shaking last night outside. She had a little trembling from the cold, so I whipped her back inside, put her in my room with the heater, and she bounced back, I don't know, 5 minutes. I mean, less. She bounces quick. And then I had her out this morning. It was cold. I was wearing a down jacket. I had the hood on, the sweatshirt underneath it. I mean, it was cold. And she started trembling, so I put her back in. Beulah's okay. Beulah didn't get a short haircut. See, mommy suffers in the heat. Beulah can take the heat, and she can take the cold. So we didn't trim her that short. So tomorrow the weather gets a little better, and then the day after that it's pretty good. So she'll be out of the soup till next year, when her hair will grow back and all of that. So I'm not too worried about it. I just got to get through this temporary cold blast, which is alleviating. And I think in about a week we're going to hit 91 degrees. So I think we did go into summer, but we had a cold spike for some reason. All right. So let's, as I told you, it appears strong to me that Netanyahu is acting as the Godfather's consigliere. Netanyahu being the consigliere and Trump being the Godfather, and he's advising him about the Middle East and Russia. Netanyahu has had a lot of contact with Russia because of Syria, and he frequently would be asked to fly to Moscow and meet Putin. So Netanyahu has a pretty good handle on how to negotiate with Putin. Trump has failed miserably with Putin in Ukraine. Yesterday, Ukraine took out a very substantial, not a little, a substantial natural gas pipeline that Russia uses to sell natural gas to Europe. I think Hungary is one of possibly several countries that buy it from Russia. And there were explosions. I mean, it blew the sucker up. Now, maybe you can fix it in a week or 3 weeks. I don't know. Or maybe it takes 8 weeks. But it's a loss of income and a royal pain in the neck to Russia. Ukraine hit one of his big air bases with bombers the day before that. Listen, I don't care what the media said. Nobody's winning this Ukraine-Russia war. And I've been telling you that all along. They're just knocking each other's lights out. Believe me, Putin's oil and got to be down by about 30% now, or at least 25% because of destruction from Ukraine. That's a big owie. That goes into the billions. Sure, they can be rebuilt, but that costs a lot of money, doesn't it? Yeah, costs beaucoup bucks. And you got the downtime where you're not making any money. Now that gas pipeline cuts Putin's cash flow off from the European countries that are buying his natural gas. That would be billions probably, or hundreds of millions. Okay. Has Ukraine hit Russian warships in the Black Sea? Yes. Probably with weapons from America and NATO members. Yes, several times. So what does Ukraine attack? Air bases, weapons storage facilities, although not that much. So he hits the air bases, he hits the oil refineries, and he hits the natural gas. So he's hitting energy and weapons storage. And he also terrorizes the population by sending drones into Moscow repeatedly and St. Petersburg. So Trump went back on the deal where they were going to have a limited ceasefire, no energy attack, no attacks on energy, and no maritime shipping attacks, no attacks on the Navy vessels. And that's all out the window. So there never was a ceasefire, even for 1 minute. I'm telling you, these are not the days. The ceasefires, forget the ceasefires. You're coming into the day of vengeance, which is the end of the year of recompenses. And we've been in recompenses since August 10, 2023. That's when the Lord told me this is recompenses. Now, the Bible says year of recompenses. And the word for year normally in Israel, in Hebrew, is Shana. The word used for year of recompenses is not Shana, it's Shanat, which is a word that I don't believe is used in regular Hebrew. If you look at a translating tool and you put in year, you're not going to get Shanat, you're going to get Shana. So it's an old biblical term, and most of the Israelis can't understand the biblical Hebrew. It'd be like you trying to read a Bible, a Wycliffe from 1300s, or maybe a 1500s Bible or something like that. You wouldn't understand the writing. I have those, and I put them up on the screen for people. I've read them, and I show you how hard it is to understand it. So what I learned when we got around to August 2024, and I wasn't seeing this wrapping up, and I started studying where I went wrong, and I came up with, well, the Lord told me this is recompenses. I don't remember him saying year of recompenses. I really don't remember saying that. I think he said recompenses. And then I studied this word Shanat, and it's used like you shall select an animal of the first year. So what is an animal of the first year? Well, the logical explanation would, I think, be the animal's 12 months and a day old, but not 24 months old. So it's in the first year. If the animal's 3 months old, is it really in the first year? You could stretch it and say that, I guess, maybe. Some people might lean that way. I don't think it could be. I don't know. We'll have to wait for Apostle John to tell us how things were done back then. But I do believe that anyway, it's under 24 months. So, this August 10th would be 24 months. So it has to wrap up before then. Because when you hit 2 years, now the animal's not in the first year, it's in the second year. Speaking of that, all the red heifers that the rabbis got to Israel, which I think were GMO modified or something like that, I think that was what happened. They all went bad, but they're not publicizing it. But they went bad. They started finding gray hairs in them. Could be they waited too long. They should have sacrificed them when they did not have gray hairs, but And when you study the prophecies, there's no need for them. Okay, you're not going to see that happen. And there's nobody building a temple. There's so many people on social media that say there's temples being built in Israel, there's secret hidden temples. There's nothing. Nothing. It doesn't exist. I lived here for many, many, many years. I know. There's a lot of Jewish believers in Israel. They know. I hear about it. It's nothing. These are just people trying to make merchandise out of God's people. Okay? All right. So back to that's how Ukraine operates. Okay? And that, I believe, is based on America's input, the Pentagon input. That's how they want him, bringing Putin to his knees. Okay? Now, Russia's big income is energy, and Iran's big income is energy. So, will Trump hit the nuclear facilities? Remember, an Israel delegation going to America next week to talk about the attack on Iran. Is Israel going to be in the attack? I think Netanyahu wholeheartedly wants to be in the attack. I don't know. Will it be only America or other countries? I don't know. But it will be America. Trump is a lot smarter than the other presidents and understands that Iran is not worth waiting on because they're lunatics. They're not going to negotiate. You can't deal with these mental midgets. So he'll hit them, and he's not just going to hit the nuke facilities. He's going to do that for sure to teach them a lesson. But what else is he going to hit? Now, he may hit the nuke facilities and stop. That might be it for attack one. Okay. And then what's Iran going to do? Well, they're going to rise up like the Houthis. They'll go after bases America has in the Middle East. They may try to blow oil refineries up where they could reach them from the Persian Gulf, like Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, and they could have the Houthis hit Saudi Arabia. But the Houthis in Saudi Arabia are not so much enemies right now. That might not happen. Jordan is another one they can go after. All right, so this could happen. Okay. Iran's going to try to find some way to get even. Now, I've covered a million times, not really, but many times, the sleeper agents in America, of which I'm sure Iran has a piece of. All these ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Taliban, Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran-backed militias, they got people there. North Korea has people in America also, and China and Russia. Venezuela, we know, maybe Cuba, but I doubt it, and they'll start rising up. I mean, the Norfolk Navy base, the biggest in America, lost all their power. Okay, we could say it's just a coincidence, but I think it was terrorism. Just like Heathrow Airport. And they didn't catch any culprits, so it'll keep returning in other areas, other locations. So maybe not on the first bombing day will America hit their oil and gas, but that's one of the things they're going to go after. Just like Ukraine attacking Russia, which is the American mindset and how to run these wars against a powerful state. Like Russia's probably more powerful than Iran, but Iran's not the same thing as Yemen. So, if it continues, they'll, like let's say they hit the nuclear facilities and Iran does nothing. They say, well, we'll rebuild, It'll take another 2 or 3 years. We'll rebuild. Then America would probably stop attacking them. But as long as they keep feeding weapons into Yemen, America's really ticked. In one brief period of time, Russia fired about 350 drones at Ukraine. The last few days, I think last weekend. Now, I believe they're getting those from Iran, maybe North Korea as well, but definitely Iran. And there are weapons shipments going into Yemen as well. So they got a vested interest in stopping Iran giving weapons to Russia. They talked about it a little bit, but never keep talking about it, but it bothers them. It bothers NATO and it bothers America, which is in NATO. So they might not just hit the nuclear facilities first, or they might, and then Trump says, you better knock it off with giving weapons to Russia and Yemen, or we're going to come back. You better stop it immediately. If you don't stop it, we're coming back and we're going to get those facilities. And there you go. And then Iran's going to have underground missile factories, missile farms, and missile launchers and all this stuff. But they're not going to have any radar, so who are they going to hit? They've got ships that launch missiles they can put in the Red Sea, and these ships have their own radar built on the ship, and they can get missiles and drones to hit oil refineries and military bases in Middle Eastern countries that America has. They have a total of about 58,000 troops in the Middle East. I think they have a massive amount of aircraft, probably about 15 warships, not counting submarines, which they never disclose. So how did Israel hit? So let's look at Yemen. What are they doing in Yemen? America. Well, they're hitting missiles, they're hitting weapons, launchers, storehouses for missiles, and other missile-related facilities. They're hitting their radar. They'll hit the Iranian radar too. And they're also hitting some of their energy and power generators and stuff like that. So that also will be on the table for America to do in Iran. They'll hit their energy. The easiest way to do it is to attack the ports and the piers where they offload the natural gas and the oil into these tanker ships and sell it to people that don't care about the sanctions on Iran. So by attacking these ports and piers, they start putting Iran out of the oil business, basically, and hitting the pipelines, just like Ukraine's doing to Russia. Going to see the same thing. Now, Israel hitting Hamas is different. These are a bunch of idiots and complete mental cases, and but we just kept trying to destroy their facilities and doing targeted assassinations. Now, did America do targeted assassinations in Yemen? Yes, they bombed the houses of 6 of the Houthi leaders in Yemen, killing them. And that's another thing America has done and will do. Ukraine's not really done that in Russia, but America will do that to Iran. They will go after Khomeini, just like Netanyahu, his consigliere, his advisor in the Middle East, went after Nasrallah and got him, and we got a lot of Hamas leaders and stuff, and that's what America will do. For quite a few days now, America's been flying surveillance drones and I think probably aircraft over Iran, probably getting target packages ready. I'm not necessarily expecting a large flow of more naval vessels into Iran, into the water here or the area for an attack on Iran, because they got enough, and I don't think Trump wants to endanger swarm attacks on the big aircraft, on the Navy vessels. So it's mostly going to be done by the air. Look, Iran's got massive amount of go fast boats, probably by now at least 15, 1800. And they can carry torpedoes that are mounted on the side of the boat, and they launch them and they just jump into the water and go. They're very unsophisticated missiles like the PT boats in World War II. They're very much like that. Maybe not quite as big, but they're faster. And they can shoot RPGs. They mount a 50 or caliber gun on it, or it could be a 30 caliber, or it could be a 20 millimeter probably. And they might have rocket launchers of some sort. They're not very heavy duty. They're, 50 to maybe 80 feet or something like that. And they're fast. And they could take 50 of them and send it at one aircraft carrier. And at the same time, launch 12 ballistic missiles or anti-ship missiles at the same time. Put 50 or 60 drones out there, and could they overwhelm the defenses of the ships? Well, maybe that particular number won't do it. Maybe they need 100 go-fast boats and 100 drones and 30 missiles, but they could muster up enough. Any Navy ship can have their defenses get overwhelmed. It's just a question of how many drones and missiles you're ready to dedicate to this job. And you're not going to lose all of them. You're going to lose a bunch. I'm going to take a fast break. I'll be right back. Ukraine took a bunch of warships out from Russia. Not that many, but they took several. And that got Russia to keep their warships far away from where Ukraine could get them. And there's going to be attacks on Iran warships. They already got one of their intel gathering ships that was directing missiles and drones in the Red Sea. And they warned Iran to get the rest of those boats out of the Red Sea. And I don't think they did that yet. So that's probably going to happen. Do I think, Elon, that's a nasty comment. Oh my gosh, we actually got some pro-Palestinian in here again. We haven't seen that in months. Boy, talk about beating a dead horse. Oof. Let me see if anybody's emailing me any prayer requests or anything. No. Okay. So, Israel attacking Hamas is a different animal, and we just destroyed the real estate. If there's no real estate, how do they live there? They can't live there. You know. Now, this is a shocker. Everybody get ready for this one. It's real. Get ready. All right? Egypt announced that they are going to prepare a temporary city in the Sinai Peninsula, which is Israel's land that we were forced to give back to them by, I believe, Jimmy Carter. And they're going to do this. So that's a complete reversal of their previous position and a breakdown of the Arab League meeting when they were all supporting Egypt's plan that they divulged at that time, which was, oh, what we'll do is we'll, move the Gazans around and rebuild the city, and Hamas will stay, and all this nonsense. I imagine Trump and Israel had a word with Egypt, and now that's what they're doing. So, as I said, I think yesterday, there might actually be a removal of some of the Gazans out of Gaza, but I don't believe it'll be all. Okay? 500,000 out of, there's slightly over 2 million with Hamas. So originally there were 2 to 2.5 million. So, I mean, taking 500,000 out is a big hunk. But what about the other 1.5 million? What do you do with them? Jordan, let's see how that goes. And you got to remember that Trump's plan is for him, America, to take the land that God gave to Israel by covenant in Genesis 15 from the Euphrates to the Nile. He wants to take a piece of Israel that we even used to have, that America forced us to give back in return for peace. Yes, some peace. He wants to take it for America. He doesn't want to give it back to Israel. So don't miss sight of these things, okay? Don't lose that. So yeah, that's what it'll start with. Maybe just an attack on the nuclear facilities to show Iran what could happen. And then if Iran starts with the standard rhetoric like the Houthis, we will respond. If the sky falls, we'll keep fighting. We're not going to ever stop. You can't beat us. We'll continue. Well, it's okay if they talk like that, but if they actually start doing anything or trying to do something, they're going to get hit. But I think they're going to get hit anyway because they're giving weapons to Russia and they're giving weapons to Yemen, and Yemen's attacking warships with it of American warships. So I don't know. I know what the targets are, but I don't know what's going to happen the first day, the second day, the third day, how the sequencing will go. But it'll wind up Iran will try to retaliate. They will act in defiance. They won't stop. And they're going to hope, like Hamas hoped, that China, North Korea, and Russia, the so-called axis of evil, come in to help them. And Trump's got enough brains to realize you got to keep Ukraine deployed against Russia to make sure Russia doesn't go and help Iran. China and North Korea are another matter altogether. They're quite far away. And I don't think China's that interested. They made a deal with Saudi Arabia to get oil on a steady basis out of Saudi Arabia. That's to replace Iran. They're not going to try to run a war with a bunch of American warships in their backyard and a bunch of American aircraft all over the area in Asia and a big base in South Korea and Japan working with South Korea against North Korea and Taiwan getting American weapons against China and America helping the Philippines. And, it's a problem. It's a problem. So what their best move is, I keep telling you this, the best move for this axis of evil, North Korea hits South Korea. That gets Japan and South Korea into the fight. It'll probably resemble Ukraine and Russia. Nobody's going to win. Okay? Then China will get into it against Japan because they hate each other. Again, I don't think there's going to be any clear winner. Japan's plenty tough. Okay? Don't kid yourself. And their weapons are going to be more efficient than what China has. And then they're going to try to do Taiwan. But when they do Taiwan, they're going to try to capture the manufacturing capabilities of Taiwan without destroying them. And they're going to try to capture the people. So they'll just tell the people, well, now you're a citizen of China. There's a lot of people in Taiwan that want to be reunified with China. They don't want to see any war like this. They'd rather be under China. Substantial bunch of Taiwanese. That could be a civil unrest. I don't know. Maybe China's recruiting them to rise up against the Taiwan government that opposes China. I don't know. Likely. So this is, going to drag America into the pits over there. Now, America's dragging itself into the pits in the Middle East. And what we need Russia to do with Belarus is light up the European theater a little bit. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Poland, Romania, plus Western Ukraine. Take your pick. Plus, Russia could start attacking England. So take your pick, whichever, name your poison. They could go and attack any of these countries. And now America is in a very, very weak position and probably not survivable. I know Americans don't want to believe that, but they can't survive against it. It won't work. In addition, Trump still has a lot of enemies inside America. He hasn't completely purged the FBI, Justice Department, CIA, NSA. He's made a big dent, I believe, but hasn't really fixed everything. And he's got judges that are trying to neutralize what he does, just like Netanyahu has the High Court and the Attorney General trying to neutralize what he does. So the Shin Bet guy, the cabinet of Netanyahu, has voted, I believe, 100% to remove this guy. And the guy is saying, I'm not going, it's not valid. And one of these groups in Israel filed a complaint with the Supreme Court attesting or claiming that this termination was not lawful. And now the Supreme Court has jurisdiction to hear it and render a decision which Netanyahu's not going to want to like or listen to. So Israel is politically divided, and it could break the country up, not just Netanyahu being replaced. I mean, the whole government breakdown. Okay? People are protesting. They want Netanyahu to do anything to get the hostages back. Pull out of Gaza. Let everything fall. Give them whatever they want. Get the hostages back. Well, they'll just do it to us again. Oh, then we'll go in and finish them off the next time, but get the hostages back. Well, the next time is going to mean a lot more Israeli soldiers killed and wounded than 20-something hostages. Do they take that into account? You people, my fellow countrymen, it's okay if your children get killed in the military getting our friends and relatives back from being hostages. See, there's not balance there. You understand what I just said? You never hear that in the media, do you? Well, you do a little bit, depending what media. But that's what they want. And they're out there protesting. Okay? There's people that are angry as all get up with Netanyahu. He's funneling money into the ultra-Orthodox. He's prepared a new budget. He's going to likely get passed. And he's got the Israeli people supporting these Kabbalah Talmud readers. We don't like that. 50% of Israel is secular. They don't like that. The Orthodox, not the ultra-Orthodox, probably shrug their shoulders and oh, well, this is very unpopular. People are very upset. Now comes the draft. Netanyahu is sheltering the ultra-Orthodox from going into the draft. They won't report. Very, very, very few, I don't know, 2%, 1%, 3%, very tiny amount, minuscule. And it's been the Supreme Court told Netanyahu or the Attorney General, one of them or both of them, I can't remember now, maybe I don't remember, told Netanyahu to put sanctions on these people who close their bank accounts and so forth if they won't report. So he's not arresting them. He's not doing anything about it. He won't take action against them. The Shas in United Torah Judaism, the two ultra-Orthodox parties, have 15 votes. You need 61 for him to stay prime minister or have a coalition. So basically, he loses 25%, a fourth. The right wing, Smotrich and Ben Gvir, have about 15 votes, and they're telling Netanyahu, well, you're resuming the war in Gaza. You didn't go to phase 2, so we're your friends now. We're in your coalition. The ultra-Orthodox is saying, well, Netanyahu, you're not drafting our guys. You see it our way, that it's better for the secular and non-ultra-Orthodox Israel, the lower piece of crap people that are historically Jews, not real Jews, because they don't study Kabbalah and Talmud, to let their children die instead of ours. You getting the reality of this? So a lot of people are ticked off bad at Netanyahu. All the problems in Israel revolve around Netanyahu. Don't kid yourself. All 100%. So there's a lot of bad stuff in Israel. People are really mad. The military could go into upheaval against Netanyahu. You think they're happy? The ultra-Orthodox are corrupting the government. Okay? Blackmailing Netanyahu because he's a political piece of garbage. He's the lowest form of a human. and they're corrupting them, and it's working. And because they're not ultra orthodox, they got to go in the military and leave their families, sleep in the mud, be out in the rain, in the heat, in the cold, sleep in a tent, eat junky MREs, meals ready to eat, you know, and fight and risk getting killed, or in some cases get killed and get wounded. And while these other idiots sit there in the yeshivas reading from the Talmud and, praying, and, it's nonsense. Okay. It's nonsense, but that's the reality. So it could be that this is preparing the way for the two witnesses. When we go, and we should go into the scriptures now, I don't know where my e-sword is on this iPad, but I know it's here. So I'm looking for it. And I got it. Okay, knew it was here. So Zechariah 12 is the next big important battle, contrary to what the churches teach about Gog and Magog. Gog and Magog in Ezekiel 38 says Israel's living in peace and safety without bars and walls, with cattle and silver and gold and great riches. You think we're living in peace and safety without bars and walls? The other day, 13 people injured themselves running to the bomb shelter. No. Zechariah 12:1. The burden of the word of Jehovah for Israel, saith Jehovah, which stretcheth forth the heavens and layeth the foundation of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege both against Judah and against Jerusalem. Now, there is no cup of trembling business going on regarding Jerusalem now, because Jerusalem's not a big topic. But when the next temple with Mount Zion comes down from heaven, and this is not New Jerusalem with the next temple, which is not made with human hands, then they're going to be ticked off, because Elijah's there training the Israelites to do the offerings and make them acceptable to the Lord. And I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to cover that with you. put the light on. What I need to do is explain to you some stuff that's not in our Bible about the Muslims, the terrorist-oriented Muslims. I'm not telling you their book, the Quran, is of any value. It's not. But I'm trying to tell you what they believe, okay? They believe, based on the Hadith, which is not the Quran, it's a book of extra writings that a lot of them believe is valid and some don't think it's valid. The peaceful ones don't think it's valid. The violent, terrorist-oriented ones do. And what it says is that Israel's going to go to the Temple Mount where the Al-Aqsa Mosque is, the Dome of the Rock, and knock it down and put a temple up. That's not going to happen. I don't think. When the mountain comes down, of course, the temple's on the mountain. There's probably not going to be a Dome of the Rock anymore, but maybe we have to knock it down. But there's not going to be a temple when a few meters away there's a shrine or a temple to a false god. That's not going to happen, okay? So they got Elijah. They don't really know who the heck Elijah is, okay? They don't know the Bible. And Elijah's going to be doing signs and wonders, so nobody's going to believe he's Elijah. You got it? So that's going to mean everything. The blind, the deaf, the healing, raising the dead, the whole gamut. Plus more signs and wonders. Remember, Yeshua said, greater signs than these you shall do? Okay? So it's going to be huge. That's going to make them scared. Plus the cup of the wrath of the Lord causes them to be scared. But they think that this is going to lead to a false Messiah of the Jews. In other words, a Messiah that's not really a Messiah, a devil. And likely they'll pin that on Elijah. Maybe Apostle John too, I don't know. The church might help them and say Elijah and Apostle John are false, they're the beast and the false prophet, because they're going to advocate the law and they're going to bring the people back under the yoke of the law again. What did Yeshua say in Matthew 5:17 and 18? Think not that I came to destroy the law of the prophets, but to fulfill. For as long as there's a heaven and an earth, not one jot or tittle shall be done away with from the law. So if the law was finished, why would God be sending us a temple again? It's right there in Malachi 3. It's in Ezekiel 40 to 48. It's in the book of Joel. It's in Zechariah 14. It's in Ezekiel chapters 8 to 11. All this is Gog and Magog. It's all there. But the church has another gospel. They do that when it says, I didn't come to destroy but to fulfill, then they turn around and say, see, he fulfilled it, it's gone. They don't read the next verse. The chapter numbers and the verse numbers are not real. They're put in by the churchianity publishing houses. But the next verse, verse 18, it says, as long as there's a heaven and earth, not one jot or tittle shall be done away with from the law. But they did away with the law. They also changed the Sabbath to Sunday. How could they do that? It's in the Ten Commandments. They violate it. They don't follow it. The Sabbath is a holy day. You have to set it aside and not do your regular work. And it's to remember and celebrate the day when God made the creation for 6 days and then rested on the seventh day. So you can't change the date of the Sabbath because you'd have to be changing the date he rested, but they changed the date of the Sabbath. And when I say these things, people get rid of me. They don't get rid of the church. But they'll still say they're believers. They don't follow the Bible, though. How could you be a believer like that? So they say the Jews are going to get this thing they call the Dajjal, which is a false Messiah that's going to tell the Jews to kill all the Muslims. And they're going to be scared, but they're going to, in their fear, they're still going to think they have to fight against what at that point in time is going to be Elijah and Apostle John. So this part of it isn't probably not going to happen until Elijah starts working. Trembling unto all the people round about when they shall be in the siege, both against Judah and against Jerusalem. That's a blockade, a surrounding. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the heathen of the land shall be gathered, with the earth shall be gathered together against it. They're going to come out in the open, out of the demonic realm, and they're going to, they don't know they're demonic, a lot of them, but they're going to want to get rid of the temple. And get rid of Elijah and Apostle John, but they can't do anything to them. In that day, saith Jehovah, I will smite every horse with astonishment and the rider with madness. I will open my eyes upon the house of Judah and will smite every horse of the people with blindness. And then it says governors, but you should read that as judges. And the judges of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be my strength. Oh, it's twisted. The inhabitants of Jerusalem's strength shall be that in the Lord of hosts, in Jehovah of hosts, Elohim. In that day will I make the judges of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf, and they shall burn up all the people round about, on the right hand and the left, and Jerusalem shall remain still, inhabited in her own place. So, does that sound like the two witnesses? With fire coming out of their mouth? If it doesn't, I don't know how to help you. Now, let's go to Malachi 3. Now, I know they don't teach this, but in the church world, but if it's in the Bible, it should be taught. Malachi 3:1. Behold, I will send my messenger, my Malach, that's Elijah, and he shall prepare the way before me. And Adonai, whom you seek, shall suddenly come to his temple. So there you see the temple and the glory of God of Israel going into the temple. Even the Malach, or the messenger of the covenant, whom you delight in, that's Elijah. They believe he's going to come teach them Torah, and he will. Behold, he shall come, saith Jehovah of hosts. But who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and a fuller's soap, and he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. See, he's going to burn the dross and the impurities out of them. What would be an example of this? Malachi 5:17, Matthew 5:17 and 18. Yeshua said, Think not I came to destroy the prophets, the law of the prophets, but to fulfill. For as long as there's a heaven and an earth, not one jot or tittle shall be done away with from the law. Now, I do this and I make it very strong, right? How could you be a believer and disregard the scriptures? You can't. By definition, you're not a believer. Now, a new believer could be confused. Now, of course, we know that stuff, right? But he's going to be rather strong about it. Purify the sons of Levi. The sons of Levi is not the Baptists or the Pentecostals or the Catholics. You understand all that? Okay. Now, anybody that's a real believer in Yeshua is in Israel, and all Israel shall be saved. Purge them as gold and silver, but they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto Jehovah, as in the days of old, as in the former years. I would say the blessings of the law come upon us when the Levites are making the offerings acceptable unto the Lord. And that's when Elijah and Apostle John burn up the enemies that are doing this blockade or siege around us. And then we go to Malachi 4:1. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith Jehovah of armies, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. Now, these are the wicked ones in Israel, the 2/3 getting cut off. This is Zechariah 13:8 and 9. This is Ezekiel 34. But unto you that fear my name shall the sun, S-U-N, Shemesh of righteousness, arise with healing in his extremities, and you shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall. You shall frolic about like calves of the stall, is what it's saying. And what is the explanation for this? Zechariah 12:10. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplications. Now they're believers. He just poured his spirit out on them. And I believe this will be the same thing happening to all the lost tribes around the world. And they shall look upon whom they are pierced. That's Yeshua. They pierced the side with a spear, and the water and blood came out. And they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son. In that day there shall be a great mourning in Jerusalem. So you have to be a mental midget to believe this happened when they got the Romans to crucify Yeshua. Never happened. This is future. So they have the Spirit poured out on them, so they're believers, and then they see the Son of Man in the clouds, the miraculous sign of the Son of Man. Okay? Now, what happens when that happens? Well, the Bible tells you. If you want to read your Bible, or if you just want to listen to the guy at the pulpit with the big building, sorry about that. I wish you wouldn't do that. 1 John 3:2, beloved, now are we sons of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be like. We know that when he shall appear, not return to earth, appear, that's appearing in the clouds, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. And we'll be like him. In what way? Well, we go to John 6:40. Remember, I'm giving you scriptures, not dreams and visions. And this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. The everlasting life comes when they see him. That's why they frolic about like a calf in the stall. They are young again. My people's days shall be like a tree, like that of a tree. A child shall die at 100. There you go. They reject this stuff. It's on them. They reject me because I read the Bible to them, and the Bible brings light, and they don't like the light. So they reject the scriptures, but say they're rejecting me. Never do they come up with alternative explanations. And this could happen in the coming few days, next week or few weeks, everlasting life. And then comes the next Exodus. But when the next Exodus starts, America's finished. Those of you that survived the sword, let Zion come to mind. So America's not long for this world. It's basically dead country walking. But what about Jeremiah 30, verse 11? Well, that's associated with the birth of the nation in a day and Jacob's trouble, which is Zechariah 12, the siege, the blockade. A siege is not an invasion. It's a surrounding. So you got all this stuff going on. For Jeremiah 30:11, for I am with thee, saith the Lord, to salvation thee, to save thee. So we don't get busted up by this. Though I make a full end of all nations, whither I have scattered thee, yet will I not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. So when you read of Jacob's trouble, which is verse 8, maybe 7. Yeah, it's Jeremiah 30, verse 7. Alas, for that day is great. That's that day, the day of vengeance, the end of the year of recompenses, the beginning of redemption. So that's when Yeshua appears in the clouds, seated at the right hand of power. So that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved. The real word is Yasha, salvation out of it. There is none like it. It is great because the nations, all the nations he scattered the Israelites into are going to be destroyed. And how many nations are that? Well, I don't know how many, but it tells you in Amos 9, verse 9. For lo, I will command and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations, like as corn is sifted in a sieve, yet shall not the least grain of corn fall upon the earth. So he sifts, he puts the Israelites, when he scattered them after 70 AD, into every nation. And then he says every nation shall be destroyed right around the times of Jacob's trouble. He doesn't just say it once. He says it in Jeremiah 46, verse 28 again. Fear thou not, O Jacob, that's the 12th tribe, my servant, saith Jehovah, for I am with thee, for I will make a full end of all nations whither I have driven thee, but I will not make a full end of thee, but correct thee in measure, that I will not leave thee wholly unpunished. And then you need to read, let's say, just there's several places, but we can just go to Matthew 24:30. And then shall appear, that's not return, that's show up, the sign, the miraculous sign of the Son of Man. His appearing is the sign in heaven, in the skies. And that, like where the birds and the airplanes fly, that kind of thing, right? Then shall all, or maybe higher, not that high though, then shall all the tribes of the land mourn. Well, we read that in Zechariah 12. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now, the elect are gathered into the barn, they're the wheat. This is Matthew 13, the tares and the wheat. Let them grow together till the harvest, and then the angels will separate. I think it says harvest, maybe not. The angels pull the tares up so they don't root up the wheat. And he binds them in bundles. In other words, they go to the pit awaiting the judgment, then the lake of fire. And this is what's about to happen, and the church is keeping the people ignorant. They don't want the people to know they're in Israel and stuff like that. And people hate it when I talk about it. Well, what am I supposed to do? Help the people that are trapped by this false teaching go to the lake of fire and just say good for them? You know, wouldn't be very nice. I wouldn't be a worthwhile servant, would I? No, I don't think so. This thing with firing the Shin Bet head, that's going to be more civil unrest in Israel. See, we don't see the government of Israel or the IDF active in Malachi 3 or 4 or in Zechariah 12. We don't see them. We see that the two witnesses are the judges of Israel, like he said in Isaiah 1. They're the ones running Israel. Things are going to happen very fast. Okay? So once again, if you think it's a good idea, I get another iPad. I need money, okay? Next, please pray for me and my wife, Rivka, for our peace, safety, protection, and joy and healing. Pray for our finances. Pray for our animals and pets, which are all rescues, to be happy, healthy, and whole. Pray for the peace of Yerushalayim. Pray for better videos, more insights into prophecy and sequencing. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I hope you got something out of this. And that's it, guys. I'm out. Thank you.